Welcome to Embrace the Spiritual Podcast. Join friends Michelle and Dawn as they share tips on how you too can open your heart, raise your vibration, and reclaim your sovereignty. Hear what they have experienced and overcome in their spiritual journeys while navigating this expansive spiritual multiverse. Discover how they transform their soul lessons from ordinary into extraordinary.
Follow, subscribe, and share Embrace the Spiritual Podcast on all streaming services, including YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Go to embracethespiritual.com for bonus content and a list of upcoming episodes. To book an aura regression, raw Reiki, or Akashic reading with Dawn, go to her website, alchemy-sacredsound.com. And to book an aura regression, raw Reiki, Akashic reading, or to do a home or pet clearing, visit Michelle on her website at energeticembrace.com.
Welcome to Awakening the Soul. And you're probably like, what does that mean? Aren't I awaken if I'm a living? Well, yes, but you can always awaken more. As we've discussed in our previous episodes with going from twin flames to divine masculine and light language, you can always do more, be more. We are galactic beings. And I know everybody's like, I'm waiting for the alien invasion, but look in the mirror. What if you are that galactic being that's already here and you just don't know it? So it's a hot topic of how people look at it. And we're going to tell you our perspective on it and what we see and what we feel is in our organic path and timeline and stuff that we're trying to draw in, because we are always trying to bring the highest information to you and have it be divinely timed.
When we were thinking about what this episode could look like, we want to make sure that you're not thinking this is a talk about spiritual awakening, because even though I think that's an underlying, maybe common thread with what we're going to talk about in today's episode, is not really the focus. Really what we want you to be aware of when you're awakening your soul. So yes, you're going to go through those things that are awakening that we've talked about in past episodes, where you might have a traumatic event set you on your spiritual path. Last episode, light language, Nubia talked about kind of her spiritual awakening path and those things that happen. So absolutely, those things are going to happen as you are on your spiritual awakening path. And as part of this podcast, and really the core of this podcast is about raising your vibration and awakening. When you start to be on that path, really what we're talking about in awakening the soul is that you are seeing things that maybe you didn't see before. It's kind of like that saying, reading between the lines. That's really what you're doing. You're reading between the lines of what information you're being presented. So I think a great way to put another word to it that is really hot button for a lot of people, conspiracy theories. Guess what? They're calling and I'll just use they as a blanket term for the nefarious people out there that are trying to keep us suppressed and dictating to us. The conspiracy theory, it's almost like when someone calls you that, I want to say, well, thank you. We're like a little bit of a badge of honor, because that means you are looking past what information is being programmed to you and being spoon-fed to you that they expect you to believe. And it can cover a wide range, whether it's politics, the medicine we put in our bodies, it doesn't matter. Once you start seeing it for more than what they're saying it is, that to me is the awakening of the soul. Your soul is going, hey, this does not feel right to me. Something about this is fishy. I don't quite believe them. And that's a good thing. Really honor when you start getting those feelings, because that means that you are stepping into a truer version of yourself, moving to a higher timeline, because you are seeing these things that don't quite make sense. And one of the topics that is coming to light more and more, and I know there are becoming more and more videos about this, is Tartaria. So if you haven't heard of Tartaria, go ahead and research it, but make sure you dig deep into the information, because there's a lot of things out there saying conspiracy theory that Tartarian was this empire that existed. Well, there are old photographs, and yes, anything can be doctored. Sadly, with the invention of technology, more things can be manipulated. So again, be watch and mindful of that and see how the information feels. But there are photos out there of the Tartarian time and the empire, as they called it, and these people that were really, really tall. They are giants, the term that we're using nowadays, but it was commonplace for these large individuals to be part of society, and they have been wiped out. There's several that are still around. You can see articles now that are starting to come out about, giant bones being found. So the history is all around us. It's just not the history that we've been spoon-fed. So that history of Tartaria, I'm not going to go into a deep dive, but it's more to bring it to your awareness. There's a lot of mud flood theories around this too, and we'll talk about that a little more, not really in depth, but this is about awareness, right? Because we're awakening your soul. Not we, you are awakening your soul. We're giving you information to assist you in waking your soul. But all of those buildings that you see with the giant columns, and they're trying to say, oh, this is just architecture. Well, if it was just one type of architecture, it would probably just be in one place and highlighted as such. But when you start seeing these buildings, and this is part of when you're out exploring or traveling, when you see these buildings that you look like this small little thing in comparison to how big these doors are or these columns are for entrances into these older buildings, those are what we're talking about for Tartarian. So when we start remembering and looking at these types of buildings or looking at our history differently and saying, does that really feel right? That's when you're starting to wake up your soul. And be curious. Like anything we talk about, be curious for yourself. And I came across something that said there was a declassified document from the CIA in 1957 that mentioned the deletion of the country's history at the hands of communist attackers. So this Tartaria civilization, it's known about. And guess what? They buried it through mud floods and these other technologies because guess what? At that time, they had the advanced architecture, transportation, free energy, wireless technology. Well, who benefits by getting rid of that? Follow the money. The people that benefit by getting rid of it are the people who have the power companies, the banks, like you name it. There are people benefiting by civilization not having access to things like free energy, wireless technology. So when we think that we are so wonderful because we've created all these things, we're still not as advanced as history would actually tell you we used to be advanced. So something to think about.
So true. And it's not just Tartaria. There were other civilizations that they have erased. Dive into it. It is a wonderful, magical truth awakening that you can go through. And along with that, you're going to realize that we weren't the only things here. Like on this planet, we had magical creatures, which will be coming up in another episode. So stay tuned for that. But I know in my heart, I speak to the energies and they're like, we want the truth to come through to those who will listen. And that's the problem. People have been so stuck in this programming that they're not listening. It hurts the things that know, like energetically, the magical creatures are sad because they know they've been forgotten about. They used to be on maps. They used to be in all the literature, and they were literally erased and turned into negative, nasty things. They're not nasty. They're so loving, but that's for another time. Step through the looking glass with us. Open the door to Alice in Wonderland and see the truths that are just like waiting to be seen. Big step, stop watching the news. It is all lies, from the wars to the medical establishment telling you what you should do, what you should eat, what new things that were coming out, and in my opinion, to poison you. And I do a lot of I do not consent when I am listening to these commercials, to these news things, because I know it's a fake falseness to my organic being. The only reason I go to the doctor is because to keep my medical insurance, I have to have a doctor. And it's the game we play. And my doctor is always like, trying to get me on something, but I'm so healthy. And that's how we all should be. You should eat healthy. You should live healthy. You should treat your body sacredly, along with other things that we are not doing because we have been forced through this system, the education system. We have to pay taxes system. We have to follow all these rules that are not making our lives better. We still have homelessness. We still have people starving everywhere. We could end it if people truly knew where their money was going to and what was being done with it. But unfortunately, people are not awake enough to stop giving to these fake, false organizations. So we are hoping that you will hear this and start questioning. Question what is happening? Why is this happening? Do not let it feed in fear, because it only keeps the system going. Look at it with love and open eyes and feel the possibility that is coming through your heart, through your inner knowing that it's always been there.
What I love about what we call the entertainment business is that there are so many movies, historical movies, even movies that are coming out now, that have so much truth woven into them, and we consider them entertainment. If you start watching those movies and look at it in the perspective of, wow, what if that was actually true? Because I can tell you there's lots of movies out there that seem so kind of outrageous or out there, and they are probably the ones that are closer to the truth. So when we look at movies like The Matrix, you've probably heard that buzzword out there for people that are considered conspiracy theorists. Well, The Matrix is really about the controlled programming, the things that are indoctrinated into us about what we need, and these rules that are put in place to try to enforce things that are really suppressing our free will. And once you can start seeing how media, politics, it's everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere. I would say there's no place that's kind of immune, or no industry that's immune to it. Just watch these things with it. Like Dawn said, watch them with a different lens. Look through the looking glass and say, can I look at this differently? Movies like Marvel. How many people love Marvel movies? I love the Marvel movies. I'm so grateful for my daughter to introduce them to me. And when I, of course, had started watching them, I wasn't quite on the spiritual path. And now that I know more, I look back at those movies and go, wow, did they ever get it right? Stan Lee was connected in to something. And these people that are connected and know there are things out there that the government, whoever is trying to keep from us, they tell the story through movies. Movies about magical creatures. All these kids' movies that, if they're done properly, we're not talking about some of the infringing ones that have these really terrible messages in them, but ones that are a little more organic, that they're trying to share what's really going on, and it's there for us to see if we want to see it. So when we talk about the Marvel movies, I want to bring that one up specifically because I think there are so many things that are in there. When we talk about portals that are open that are bringing in other beings, guess what? That's actually happening. There are entities and beings that are negatively attaching to people that we can't see with our physical eyes. They can walk around like clones. They walk around maybe partially taking over someone. And listen, I'm going out there, and it may feel out there to you, but it's not. We've experienced this. We see it on an energetic level. This stuff is out there. Even when I think of Doctor Strange with the symbols and, the ability of our mind, we know that our mind is capable of so much more. We're capable of astral traveling when we dream and remote viewing. Well, the government's known about this for years, and they've been doing it for years. They've been remote viewing and trying to look into, enemy camps, so to speak, to see what they have in that area. And remote viewing is really that ability to tap into the energy of what's there and be able to determine what is at a specific location, if you're not familiar with remote viewing. But all of these movies, I had to make a list of some of them, right? Like you look at The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. That's another one where he's kind of being filmed. Well, hello, how many times do you go out, even if it's red light cameras at a stoplight, or all of these security systems that, we have the eye in the sky, as they always say. Who's collecting all this information in this video, and the facial recognition that we have all over the world? This stuff has been out there for a while. They've been hiding it in plain sight, as the saying goes. So I encourage you to look at things differently. One of the things, there's movies like that are almost trying to tell the real situation through entertainment, because people just think of it as entertainment. But here's the thing that can happen when the nefarious, I'll call it, agenda is trying to normalize things. So you're starting to see commercials about people that look like a reptilian, or, they look like some other alien being, or all of these AI robots that are all of a sudden going into concerts and like walking around pretending that they're like any other human enjoying a concert. So also watch for that. When things are trying to be normalized, even the things that they're doing to children right now, I don't want to go into it too much, but all of these games that they're playing with children's sexuality, gender identity is kind of where I'll leave that. They're trying to normalize what isn't normal. And the reason they're doing that is so they can, when you see it as normal, you're not going to question it. That's bottom line. Some of those things should not be normalized. They are not normal. The things that are being shown to kids in lingerie that are strutting like drag queens, that is not normal. And just because someone is trying to say that it's okay to do that, and that calling us that don't believe that that's true, that we're being gender biased, all of these things, it's manipulation, people. That's all it is. Every time someone tries to expose the truth, they're throwing crap up against the wall to try to get you to back away from the truth you're trying to share. So that's why I say, if people call you conspiracy theories, well, thank you very much, because conspiracy theory to me just means that you are seeing beyond the programming that is being pushed down our throats.
So true. And I was trying to look, there was a series, it's like 13 books, but it is a Amazon series that was being shown, and I can't find it. But when I was watching it, my higher self kept saying, this is happening somewhere on a different planet. This is a different planet. This is real. You have those superpowers, and it's not Marvel. It was, I can't remember what. So I'm hoping that it will, I couldn't find it in my messages with another practitioner that I was talking to. So it wasn't meant to be, but I'll ask my husband when he comes home and we'll provide it in the links. But Lord of the Rings, that was real. That feels true to my heart. I know people are going to be like, no, it wasn't. It's true. I don't care what you say. We have magical creatures. We see people who look like those. I have seen people and I'm just like, you're a giant. You're an orc. You're a dwarf, or what was Frodo? He wasn't a dwarf. What was he? I can't remember. Where's my husband when I need him? Because he plays Dungeons and Dragons, and he's like, oh yeah, he could name off everything. But it's so true. We need to start looking with a new lens, with new glasses on. We have been lied to for so long. And while you're, diving deep, don't go too crazy and be controlled by the false narrative that they are trying to throw at us. We can only control what we can. And there is going to be false things to make you kind of like, oh my God, like I'm being attacked. Do not do this in fear. When it's in fear, you're not following the right path. When you feel like you're worrying, it is not the right path. Somebody reached out to me and they're like, I'm going to have to. I'm like, no. I'm like, we have our tools we were given. We are going to clear that and make it not true. And unfortunately, we are limited by our language, but we can take the language back. We can make it positive. We can control what words, like what we talked about in conscious languaging, that we use, and we can bring it back to the organic and bring back those sacred languages that we have not used in thousands or maybe a couple hundred years, because who really knows at this point what our true timeline is? I had a hard time with the history class, and it makes total sense because I knew it wasn't our true history. It was this fake false history that they wanted us to believe. What you see and what is being presented to you is not always true. They want us to be free, but not truly free, because if you're truly free, you would be making different decisions that were there to empower you and make you more sovereign. And once you give up your free will, we become a slave planet. That they have shown me, which is not a possibility, but there are slave planets out there that don't even have as much as we do. It is not a nice existence, and we are not going to become it. But as we heal, we are helping those slave planets get their freedom. So the faster that we can grow, we can also inspire them for and towards their freedom. Another book series that I just finished is called The Crescent City series by Sarah Maas. I don't know how you say that, but the underlying tone through all the books was through love, all is possible. And we forget that. Through love, everything can heal. And I don't mean this fake false sense of the pedo love that they're trying to push. I mean true love, giving with an open heart, not to hurt somebody else, not to change their mind, not to take away their freedoms, not to take away their sovereignty and make you more powerful. Through true organic love, we can heal all. Through sound frequencies, we can heal. We have so many things that we can have access to, but we have given our lives to somebody else. Well, I've taken my life back. Are you going to take yours back? Are you going to live in the system that is broken, that is poisoning our food, is poisoning our lands, is poisoning our air? Where do you want to live? Do you want to continue that narrative, or do you want to heal and be the highest, healthiest version of yourself?
Mic drop. It's so true. You might be thinking, okay, I don't see those things that you guys are talking about. That's okay. It's coming. It will come for you. And part of that is about quieting your mind, bring it back to meditation, breath work. So there's things that if we don't still our bodies and our minds from the external chaos and things that are trying to distract us, it will be harder to see. So this does take some practice, and having an open mind is the starting point of that. I would say not so open that you're being infringed upon. That's not what I'm talking about. But the open mind of being curious to what could possibly be different, what could possibly look different than what it is, or be different than what it looks to be. As we can quiet our mind, what happens is instead of seeing things with our physical eyes, then we can start seeing it with our third eye and that intuitive knowing, and start using those other senses of ours and, reading between the lines of what's being said. Know that there are things out there that they're saying are bad in movies that aren't, and vice versa, normalizing things like reptilians and AI robots. Yes, technology is good to a point, but when they try to normalize these things, it is taking away our sovereignty. And that's not okay. I do not consent to that. I don't want to be taken over by AI and have these digital things, because what can be recreated and cloned nowadays is very, very it's hard to even think of a word. Like, it's not healthy, it's not normal. The best thing I can say is if the media or celebrities, sadly, because celebrities have a little bit of a platform, you have to be really, really heart-centered and have that heart discernment of who you are actually following from a celebrity perspective, because they're using that status to impose their beliefs onto you. And the best I can think of, there's a few celebrities, I won't name the names, but you could probably, if you haven't already seen the videos, where they're normalizing eating bugs. These are not normal things. Reptilians eat bugs, not humans. So when you start to see these things, stop and say, does that really make sense? Just because this celebrity is telling me that, oh yeah, crickets are, something that should be eating. No, I'm sorry, but no, that's not okay. Really watch for those red flags. And even if you have to be at a place, as Dawn said, not from fear, but be at a place of, you need to work harder to prove to me that that is actually real. Don't give away your trust freely or innocently. And I know trust has been a big thing that I've worked on. And now knowing more about things that are out there, well, it kind of makes sense why I didn't trust. Like, you have to earn my trust. I'm sorry, it's not arrogant, but I don't give it away just because I meet somebody through a friend that, oh, this person's wonderful. Well, I'll make the determination if I think they're wonderful or not, and whether I resonate with them. And that's really what it is you're not resonating at the same level with that person, and that's okay. One thing I want to also highlight as far as kind of this awakening the soul, and really this is about you protecting your soul. So many people are gaslighting. They are gaslighting people into distracting them to try to believe the narrative that they're forcing down your throat. So if somebody is treating you that way, of gaslighting and calling you crazy, all of these things, it is pure distraction. If that's happening, you're probably on the right track and you are disturbing something, and it's very unsettling for the people that don't want anybody to see them for who they really are. What we really want to highlight today is not everything is as it seems. There are timelines out there. We've talked about this, kind of the Mandela effect. That's a form of gaslighting. They're trying to say that a whole collective of people aren't remembering something properly. So somebody else is dictating the one and only thing that happened, but yet a whole collective remembers something distinctly different. Well, they're gaslighting you when they're saying that, oh, you're crazy, that didn't happen, and they're showing the way it is now. Well, no, I know what I remember, and that it was in a timeline that I remember and lots of other people remember. So just because somebody else is trying to create another timeline to suggest that this is the actual way that it happened, that's all that's happening. It's manipulation that's out there. No different than saying certain figures back in the war days, I don't want to say too many names, but saying that they died in a manner that they died. And there have been people trying to disprove those historical records, and that person got away. This very nefarious person in historic wars got away, and it's proven that they made it to other countries and they were trying to establish their negative reign in other countries, and they almost succeeded. So the fact that so many people bought into the narrative that was happening, you close yourself off from seeing other things that are happening, and potential timelines that are not in our highest good can be created as a result.
I want to touch on some things that you mentioned. What I was told was they want a chaos because they want us in a henny penny mentality. Do you remember the book Henny Penny? The sky is falling, the sky is falling. They don't want you to have common sense and say, hold on a minute, is it really falling? Because when they create chaos and this fear mongering that is used to control us so well, you can't think. You are acting on animal instinct instead of inner instinct of calmness and being prepared for nothing happening. Like all these predictive things that they've tried, nukes are coming, we have to prepare. Y2K, we have to prepare. These wars that are supposedly coming here that have not happened. So are you going to be controlled by that, or are you going to be in your heart? When I feel things, I feel in my stomach and I feel in my heart. So if you want to get into practice of honing in your skills, when you are listening to something, close your eyes. Take out that visual effect. Listen with your ears. Go in to yourself and listen with your stomach and your heart. How is your stomach feeling? Does it feel queasy? Is it feeling uneasy? That most likely means that they're lying to you. Is your heart feeling opened? Are you feeling love? That most likely means that they are telling the truth. That's how I base most things on. And if I don't feel anything at all, it probably means that it's empty of any knowledge whatsoever. So it all depends on what's going on. Or, it's an easy way to say, this person loves me or this person doesn't. Like, you are the mirror. You are taking in what they have, and if they have no love in their heart for you, you're going to feel nothing. And if you feel nothing, there's nothing there, and they can't give anything to you to prove that they love you. So that's how I do things. And when you mentioned something, Wall-E came to my mind with this AI taking control. They want us lazy because then we become slaves to them. With the things that have been in place, they're trying to take the number of beings on this planet down. So of course, we're going to need other things to step into place. But you know what? It's not going to be like we think it's going to be. It's not going to work out. We are meant to be organic beings working with organic beings. We're not meant to be plugged into our computers and our cell phones, or having computers or I guess I should say AI computers serving us meals. Because when food is made with love, you can feel the love and nourishment that you're eating. I know that they're trying to replace like restaurants with machinery to take care of everything. To me, I would never step foot in them, because it is missing the human aspect that is needed to truly make the food as healing and delicious as it needs to be. These are just ideas to think about. What kind of world do you want to create? What kind of world do you want to live in? We're showing you the possibilities of opening your mind. If you want to accept it, beautiful. If you don't, that is fine with me. It's your choice, because you have free will, and it's a beautiful gift. Cherish it. It is the best gift that we've ever been given.
One of the other things I wanted to bring up about, this awareness, and certainly what we're wanting to assist with, is while you are going through this spiritual awakening that's going on, we want to just add this extra piece of awareness. You kind of have spiritual awakening and spiritual awareness. Maybe we'll call it that. One of the other things I wanted to highlight that's happening right now that I feel is total gaslighting. They're trying to say that they're focusing on carbon dioxide and how bad carbon dioxide is. So you can see all this program narrative that they're trying to suggest and have people buy into the fact that carbon dioxide is bad. Well, we exhale carbon dioxide. And guess what? Trees and plants take in that carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. So they are trying to downplay that process, because if they can take away these natural processes that are happening, and as Dawn said, we rely on whatever AI generated alternative they've got in mind for that, that's what they're doing. And so we're going to be breathing in toxins. That's what they're doing with spraying the skies. And for those of you that say chemtrails are the same as contrails, well, I'm sorry, your head is in the sand. They're not the same. There is so much information out there that these planes are being paid to have these chemicals in them as they fly the skies. So that's another thing that's going on right now. Let's talk about genetic meats. They're trying to get normalized lab-grown meats. Because guess what? If we don't rely on organically grown, I'm not talking about the big chicken farms or anything like that, but things that are organic in how they are grown. I know lots of farmers that love their animals, their cows, their chickens, more than some of their family members. So I'm talking about that kind of organic raising of food for others. Even the A peel we talked about on fruits and vegetables. Here they're trying to preserve. Well, no, it's toxic, and you can't get that stuff off. It's a way to get those things into us, because if they can get us ingesting those things, guess what? It dampens your light. And they don't want us to be raising our vibration and being the light warriors that were on this earth to help raise the vibration. They don't want that, because there's no money in that. We naturally raise our vibration, and we don't have to eat these dense foods, and we can live a more natural, organic, healthy life. There's no money to be made in that. So you start seeing these fires at these big, yes, they're processing plants, but still, if all of a sudden these places that house chickens, house cattle, like places that are sending out food to grocery stores or wherever, these places start burning to the ground, that's not a coincidence. It is on purpose. Because if they can destroy the quote unquote natural source of nutrition, then guess what? Oh, they're going to come in and save the day with their genetic lab grown everything. Lab grown plants, meats. It doesn't matter if you're vegan, eat meat, whatever. They are trying to get us to a point where we are reliant on a system that they can control. And Dawn does an amazing job at growing a lot of food and things that they can eat naturally that they've grown. They're trying to shut people that are trying to buy more property? Why do you think the person who invented some computers, who now has this big organization trying to buy farmland, if they can burn down the source of income from these farmers and then buy up the land dirt cheap, they are controlling the ability for us to be self-sustaining. So those are red flags that we want to highlight. If you don't see it already, I'm hoping that you at least start seeing these situations from a new perspective, because if we can start to see these things that are being manipulated, that's how we exit the matrix. If we can't see the manipulation, then it's hard to unplug.
So true. And if these things weren't real, then why would people be trying to pass laws to ban weather modification? Texas, and I believe it's New Hampshire, want to ban weather modification. If these things weren't real, why would there be patents on chemtrailing? You can't deny this. I'm sorry, the people who have contacted me who have said that's wrong. Well, if it's wrong, then why do they have all this technology? It's out there. You can't deny it. We're getting to the tipping point where you have to be blind or just really sold by the media, and you're not looking out your window at what is happening. I'm having 60-degree weather today. Literally, we're going to drop down to 20 degrees tomorrow. That is not normal for New York State. They are messing with us for whatever. I don't know if they're trying to prevent the trees from budding, which is kind of what I'm feeling, that they're trying to do a deep freeze, but I don't consent to that. I'm working with the energies, protecting my land the best that I can, and trying to wake people up to see what is going on. We all have to wake up. We all have to energetically make that shift. When we make that shift, we can get people in place who will have our best intentions working for us. But we have to make that shift. We cannot be head in the clouds anymore. We can't be believing everything on the news. It is hard to watch people believe all this BS. I just did a show. Somebody was talking about, Buffalo is going to be the best place to live, but I don't want to move there yet because they don't have XYZ and a lot of agendas that I'm just like, I'm not even going to get into. And he's like, this, climate change. And I'm like, the climate changes every day. He's like, well, it's not, because I think I said the weather changes, but I'm like, climate changes all the time too. I like to say like Mother Nature, will do what she wants, because she is going to do what she wants. She is combating all the poisons that we have thrown at her, and us, not us personally, but what other people have thrown at her. So there is going to be a heavy swing of energies. You can't talk to somebody who, is like, Buffalo is going to be the best place to live, because I know it's not. I was just doing some research, and they were saying that solar panels actually create a thermal mass of heat that is not normal for the planet. So there's going to be a high probability of weather changing, from tornadoes to hurricanes to extreme weather that would not be normal for the area, because it's going to heat it up. And just think about it. These are black panels. When you heat something up black, it retains that energy. So it's always going to be more warm than normal. Well, guess what Buffalo has right now? We have a whole entire lakefront full of solar panels. And it kind of makes sense why we're going through extreme from, 60 degrees in February, where you haven't even got to March where it snows, April where it snows, and sometimes even in May it snows. Open your eyes, people. It is right in front of you, the truth. Question everything. Question what I'm saying. Look into it. I would not have stumbled upon this information unless I was looking into something else. But obviously, my higher selves and team were like, you're going to be doing this podcast. You need to mention it. The information for truth is always there. Are you willing to step into looking for it? Because it's there. You just have to have a curious mind.
Yes, that's what it boils down to, curiosity. One of the last points that I wanted to make sure I addressed in this episode is a reminder that our bodies have the ability to self-heal. And the reason I want to bring that up is there is an increase in advertisement that I'm seeing for things like med beds, how wonderful these med beds are. They are not wonderful. We do not need that kind of technology to heal us. If anything, it's putting more damage into our bodies than what they are claiming to heal. So, whether it's injections into your body, anything that we're putting in our body, and I'm sorry, but the biggest gaslighting of all is inject something that could be harmful into your body to protect someone else is the biggest BS line I've ever heard, but it worked for people. It got them to comply because it was based on what? Fear. Anytime you come across information that is fear-based, comply or else, this could happen. Will take away your freedoms. Those are exactly the things that you need to question and stand up for yourself. That you do not consent. Very powerful words. I do not consent to that timeline. I will not allow it to dampen my vibration. I have so many other notes, but our next episode's going to be episode that I'm going to bring those points up in, because this is just going to take us to a new level once we can start seeing what they're trying to hide from us and reading between those lines, and ultimately just honor yourself as a sovereign being and treat your soul as the temple and sacredness that it deserves.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we talk about awakening the earth and what you can do to help the earth heal and grow along with yourself while tuning into her as she tunes into you.
Follow, subscribe, and share Embrace the Spiritual podcast on all streaming services, including YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Go to embracethespiritual.com for bonus content and a list of upcoming episodes. To book an aura regression, raw Reiki, or Akashic reading with Dawn, go to her website, alchemy-sacredsound.com. And to book an aura regression, raw Reiki, Akashic reading, or to do a home or pet clearing, visit Michelle on her website at energeticembrace.com.
Thank you for joining us.